Okay, folks, as I promised, I'll be back. Now, as you know from the series of vids I've done on vintage science fiction already, it's a bit of a passion project of mine. And although my usual source has dried up temporarily, I discovered that you can actually buy some reasonably priced bundles online. This particular one I bought was 12 books. I think it was 23 quid, so we're just under the £2 mark, which is what I normally pay for them anyway. Now, the one I'm going to start off with, it's a weird one. I've told you this story before, but I had a lot of these science fiction books. I started collecting them around at the end of the 60s and carried on till mid-80s. So nearly 20 years, I was collecting science fiction and reading them. And then circumstances dictated that I had to get rid of a lot. So I mainly kept the ones that I'd read and the ones that were like first edition paperbacks and stuff that I just thought I'll keep. And now I've decided that I'm going to go back in time and try and get back some of the stuff that I let go. It's proven to be quite a more expensive way of doing it than it would have if I kept them, but never mind, because I didn't get anything like what I'm buying them for at the moment. But yeah, the reason I mention that is because this first one, when I saw it in a bundle, it was the one that was right on the top of the picture, and immediately something went bing inside my mind, and it brought up nostalgic memories for me. I don't know why this particular book, but I looked at it, thought, boom, something just went there, and I thought, that is, I remember that book. I don't know why that one in particular. As I say, I had hundreds of things. It was that The Grecs Bring Gifts by Murray Leinster. I mean, not a particularly famous book, not a particularly good book as far as I know, but it just did it for me, so I'd have it. And I mean, I looked up, and the cheapest I could have bought it for on its own was £4. So I thought, why not buy the bundle? So yeah, that was the first one in the bundle. This is a second printing, although this is a different cover to the first printing, and it's February 1968, a McFadden American publication. Okay, and the second one was this William 10 book of Men and Monsters. I'd actually forgotten that Ballantine Books came over here, because it's got an English price on it. So obviously these were distributed over here. I'd actually forgotten that. I've got a lot of Ballantine books, but they're all American. I think this is the first one I've got that's an English publication. It's First United Kingdom printing, March 71. Interesting little someone actually bought it for that one, 2p. Lucky them. I'm not really familiar with William 10, but yeah, it's quite a nice book, quite a nice cover, and it's of that vintage, so yeah, happy with that one. I remember these, Agent of Terror by Larry Maddock. I mean, obviously that's a pseudonym for one of the more popular authors, but I don't know who. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, I remember seeing these all over the place. This one's in nice condition, actually. It's an Ace book, so it's American. And weirdly enough. You can see that. And cover by Sergio Leone. I don't know that that's the Sergio Leone, but I hope it is. I suspect that it isn't. Yeah, so we're talking 1967 for that one. So these are nice nice books that fall into that what I call vintage period. Around about the time when I first started collecting them as a hobby, really. This is an old one by the look of it. It's Guardians of Time by Paul Anderson. You can tell it's old just by the design of it. Unfortunately, it's got a slight ripple towards the back pages there, but nothing that makes it uncollectible. I mean, it's a nice square spine, and it's got a bit of wear, but I mean, you expect that from a book that's. Let's have a look. I suspect this will be mid-60s. Yeah, second print in 64. So the second printing was the same year as the first. I've picked up quite a few Paul Anderson books in the stuff that I've been getting from the charity shop. So that's another one to add to the collection. Well, one thing you do notice when you get these books, you realise that how well, when you've been a collector yourself and you've kept books from new, how well yours look in comparison to some of the stuff you buy. But as I've said many times before, I don't moan about the condition of old books from 50, 60 years ago, because that's what they're designed to be read, and of course the more they get read, the more tatty they get. But I mean, I wouldn't collect anything that's dropping apart, but by and large, most of them I put in the area of collectible. Right, that's another, no, it's an English, no, it's American, Monarch books. I don't have too many of those. Doomsday Wing by George H. Smith. I've got a couple more of his in the recent stuff. Not familiar with him or his books, but that one hails from 1963. So there again. These are all 60 years, 55 to 60 years old. This stuff I'm showing you here, so I'm quite happy. There is a nice one. Now, I've actually shown you my Berkeley Medallion edition of this, which is the one I actually read recently. So I wasn't too impressed with it as a story, but this is interesting because compact books. Now, these are the people that did the New Worlds that I showed you quite recently. And they didn't have a large print run to their books, I know that. And I would imagine this one is scarce-ish. I mean, I haven't looked it up, but I don't think you'll find one around every corner. And to say it's a well thought of book. I call it a novelette. It's not in bad nick. But as I say, these compact SF books are quite collectible in their own right. As you can see, the pages are fairly white, so I'm going to keep that one, even though I have a copy of the Rose. I'm going to keep that one. Same applies with this. I mean, this is a real old Corgi edition. I think I've got it in the series that they did that I showed you recently, the Collector's Library. But I mean, this is a well-known book, won the Hugo Award, of course. And the reason I'm keeping this is because it's just a nice old printing of the book. It's dated from, where are we? Corgi edition, It's a reissue from 1970, so it's not a first printing, but nevertheless it's one that I shall keep, even though I already have a copy. Right, do that one first. New Writings in SF. Now I bought a whole series of these from a charity shop a few years ago now. But I think they started around about number, it was a nice run, but I think they started around about number 6 or 7. So to get these earlier ones is a bonus, especially when this one's been read, but it's a nice tight copy, so no blemishes or anything, whitish pages. And this one hails from 1965, and it's a first paperback, so yeah. Try and get the rest of them, the earlier ones. And this was the same series, but a later one, which I think mine stop around about 17, so there again, it's another one to add to the series. I was making sure the video was running then, I thought it had stopped. Yeah, so New Writings in SF. This is the sort of stuff I used to read a lot of back in the day, because short stories are better for lunch hours. I used to read a lot in my lunch hour. I used to go out somewhere, find a seat, sandwich, can of Coke, and just get through a short story or two. Whereas a novel, you've got to stop-start, So, yeah, I remember those fondly from the old days. Right, this is a more recent book, Future History by Jerry Purnell. I don't mind getting the more recent stuff because it's stuff that I never had. This will be 80s, I would imagine, reprint, 1981, it's a reprint, second printing, so yeah, as I say, I don't remember having that, even though I was still collecting it around about that time. But I was buying mainly American editions. That's an English Orbit edition. Quite a thick volume, actually. I remember seeing this one around quite a bit when I was buying second-hand books. One Against Time by Astron Del Marcia. I have absolutely no idea who he/she is. But I remember seeing it around quite a lot. Nice condition, that one. I would say it's early 70s. Oh no, Mayflower original, 1969. So it's the first paperback to boot. So that was it for the science fiction. There was one other book in the pile, which I've read the synopsis on the back, and I don't think by any stretch you could call it science fiction. Although it does have a weird premise. One by One, Linda Lee. I'm not familiar. It's one I'll keep, just simply because it's first publication 1979, so it's a first paperback. But it sounds interesting enough. Yeah, I'll just keep it around. Probably chuck it in a bookshelf somewhere and forget about it. Anyway, yeah. So that was those few that I picked up online. I'll probably continue to do that. Pick up little bundles until my usual source starts to get some stock back in. Okay, folks. Many thanks for sticking with me through yet another vintage science fiction video. Thank you again for watching. Thanks for continuing to watch. Please continue to subscribe and likes and all that stuff. And I will see you in the future. Bye-bye now.